if you constantly have that in play, you're constantly keeping your mouth shut until you hear stuff, so that when you say something, it's more profound, it's more wise, and you instill a sense of value and a sense of caring into your clients. Cool. Well, let's go ahead and get started on Wisdom Wednesday. Last week, we chatted about kind of what wisdom is, and we talked about the transition of knowledge is power to application of knowledge is power, and then application of wisdom is power. But and we talked about what wisdom is, but then how do you apply wisdom? One, kind of in your life so that you get good at it, and then you can help apply wisdom in your client's life. Because I think that's our most valuable, one of our most valuable assets is to provide wisdom. And again, just to restate the definition, wisdom is the quality of having experience, knowledge, and a good judgment. So as we talked about, knowledge is a component of wisdom, but you're also interjecting experience, which then should help you develop good judgment, right? So, how do we begin to apply that in our clients' lives? Who thinks you could probably apply good judgment to your client without knowing much about their objectives, their backstory, and how to best help them? Right?
I think there's levels of judgment, but good solid judgment for your client, you're going to have to get to know.
Yeah, right. Yeah, if you know little or nothing about them, like let's say kind of that shortest amount of experience, interaction experiences, hey, literally got a call, go open a home, you don't know much about them, if anything. So to answer intelligently, providing wisdom probably isn't, an option just yet. So the tendency might be to just spit a bunch of knowledge and make them think, you're a good agent, right? That could be a tendency. But if they start asking you, hold on just a sec here, guys. If they ask you questions, not that you want to be elusive, you want to answer the question as quickly as you can, but it also is smart to then ask them a question. Say, well, unless it just doesn't quite fit, you basically want to say, well, tell me a little bit about yourself so I can, give you good sound advice and wisdom. Right? So, back to the 2 ears and 1 mouth scenario, if you constantly have that in play, you're constantly keeping your mouth shut until you hear stuff, so that when you say something, it's more profound, it's more wise, and you instill a sense of value and a sense of caring into your clients. I think everyone on the call here has a natural tendency to do that, just based upon what I know of you. I think we can all do better. So I'm just illuminating the fact that it's something we should be cautious of and diligent about. I also see it being beneficial that we don't then feel like we have to know it all at that moment, right? The natural human tendency is, if I don't have an immediate answer, I'm not coming across as good at what I do. I actually think there's a lot to be said for experts that say, you know what, I've got a pretty good idea of that answer, but I'd really like to firm it up with so and so and such. Let me get back to you. I think clients can really appreciate that. Did somebody have a thought they wanted to chime in with?
Wisdom is not knowing everything.
wisdom would indicate that you know little, need to know more.
but it's not knowing everything. And so, yeah, when you're saying with our clients, like, we don't know it, and say, hey, I'm not real sure about that, instead of just blurting out whatever you want to say to make make them think you know what you're talking about. Get the right answer. Say, let me find that out, and then we'll be in touch.
Yeah. Yeah. I think as an agent, we can be wise knowing that we don't know.
Exactly.
Right? Like I've gotten pretty good at, you never want to come across as avoiding a question, but to say, hey, the inspector, a third party experienced inspector is going to give you the best advice on this home. Like, I'm not a construction guy. I'm not, as best I can tell, it seems like good quality material and good craftsmanship, but, really we will know through a third party inspection and some more expert advice what that answer is. I think they can appreciate that, hey, your best assessment is good, but you also can appreciate that you don't know everything. And by the way, you're wise enough to know, and you're educating them on what the process is, that we are going to do an inspection, we are going to have a professional help us through the process. We're going to talk with them, and we're going to get a full-on report that we can talk through. That instills a huge sense of confidence that in a number of things. One is, you don't know it all. Two, you have the people that are wiser than you that you can pull into the scenario, into the transaction, and then what I think is the most important piece is you're watching out for their best interest. I can quickly tell when somebody thinks they know all the answers and is trying to get, them through the process, get you through the sales process to keep it moving along. Right? They're watching out for their paycheck. They're not watching out for your best interest. And we pick that up, right? It's like, yeah, you say I think a lot, or you're kind of skirting it, but really you should interject professional here. What's your thoughts on that, Keith? You're in the construction field.
I 100% agree. I think that people can see right through BS. It just screams loud, and if you can't pretend, for long. And it goes back to know their why, and they're not here to have smoke blown. They're here to buy a house, and you're here to help them. So get after helping them.
Yeah. I think we can also, you brought up a topic we talked about before, but if you have, the 5% that think, 15 that think they think, and 80% that would rather die than think, who are you talking to? If you're talking to the 80% that would rather die than think, they're probably going to follow you for a while just because they don't want to think about it. But ultimately they're going to sense that you don't have their best interest at heart. I think that's a sense that people get. Of the people that think they think, they're going to question to some degree what you're saying. They're like, well, okay, this guy's been in, they're assessing you, right? How long you've been in the industry? What do you know? How many, do you have referrals? Do you have references online? Like, those people are thinking, hey, does this guy know what he's talking about? At least they're putting some thought into it. And, they're the ones that are really going to see through it quicker, right? Because they're actually thinking. And then the ones that really think, boy, they're going to challenge you. You know what I mean? The ones that and be on your A game, on your toes, and not, kind of like you said, BS them at all, because they are thinking. These are critical thinkers, and you spit out something that's not 100% known, and they're going to go, this person's got a tendency to kind of half truth things, or maybe even lie about things, or whatever. So in every case, that's important. What's your thoughts on that, DR?
Well, I always try to go slow into responses, just because I try to ask a lot more than answer in the front side, to get a really good feel of one. I always ask, what's your wish list? and then, what's your goals and what's your needs. But with wisdom, in my experience, and the people I would consider are really wise and that I've interacted with, usually that wisdom comes through failure. And it's when you make those mistakes that you learn, okay, I don't want to make that mistake twice. But I do feel like was mentioned earlier, being honest when you don't know the right answer, or you're not sure, there may be a couple right answers, touching base and just saying, hey, I'm gonna check on that. But the quick follow-up, I think, gains trust versus a long drawn out process on answers. But knowledge is good, but I know a lot of very, very knowledgeable people who maybe aren't considered smart because they lack the wisdom in the timing in which they deliver it, or the patience. There's a time to speak and there's a time to listen. So, and I think wisdom works well, knowing the timing of that. And, like you guys were saying, and I was listening to one of your other ones, people like to share their story and so forth. And you can gain so much from that in the listening part versus speaking. And I think that's where wisdom can really come into play, because people who like to hear themselves talk usually aren't, I would say, in my experience, the wisest. The wise ones seem to listen a lot more.
Yep. And I liked your, you added the communication process. If we're going to state something, but then tell the client that we're going to confirm that or verify that, it is very important to communicate with them. Hey, I'm going to reach out to so-and-so. They're the expert, in this field. And if you're not getting a timely response, or you've got to ask multiple people, sharing with them that it's taking a bit. Hey, just so you know, I've reached out to so-and-so. I'm hoping to hear back, such and such date. That way they're not wondering like, okay, did they ignore my question? Are they really not verifying or what? Just, let them know what you're doing, because now it's out of your timeline, right? To some degree, but sharing with them, hey, I'm just waiting to get back. And then the other piece of wisdom that I've picked up is letting the client know, like, look, I've reached out to these people, but at the end of the day, if this is of utmost importance to you, I recommend that you reach out to them as well. An example I would have is school boundaries. Like, what school are we in? If we're honest, quite often we grab the schools of that listing from the prior listing or a close by listing, right? But if somebody's looking to buy that house, we put buyer to verify all. The buyer's agent should verify, and if you're the buyer's agent, like, look, if it's important for you to be in these schools, those boundaries adjust quite often. This is what I'm hearing, but I highly advise you call the school directly and hear it from the horse's mouth. Charlie, did you have a thought, comment?
You guys have said it all really well. I
agree.
And again, it's one of asking, especially in the upfront, just when you're meeting clients, the best thing you can do is be really curious and get them to talk about themselves. Then by your listening, you build enough confidence that as they ask questions and you're responding, they're engaged much better. And then the rest of it's just listening. And again, being able to if you built that right relationship, it's easy to say, hey, I don't have an answer for that, but we'll work on it, or we'll get it, or hey, we're going to bring another trusted person in to work with us, whatever. But I think that's being a good listener is the best part of what we're talking about today, using that wisdom, being a good listener.
Awesome. Well, we're cutting it down to the wire here, but the last thing I would interject, and this could be a whole nother topic, but sales 101, if you're helping, if you're a good salesman, you're not selling them anything, you're helping them buy, right? A lot of us have probably heard that. And then if you take it to the next level, that in a sales process, every customer can have any number of questions that they need to answer from, A to Z. Some have, tens or hundreds or sometimes thousands of them. And in order to help somebody buy, you're going to have to answer all those questions until they're ready, right? You have to to answer all those questions. And just throwing knowledge at them just because you know it, that will answer some, but there's also going to be some that they're not going to know. They don't know what to ask. Like, what is this going to mean to me? Those wisdom type of questions. It's not square footage, it's not how many bedrooms, it's not how many, car bay, what the size of lot is. It's none of that. It's the wisdom question. So then you need to dig deeper to extract those wisdom type questions from them and provide an answer that they don't even know that they have. There's a sense within them that they don't have all the answers that they need to move forward. So if you have a client that's pausing, it's likely because they didn't ask all the questions or they don't know the questions to ask, and you have to figure out what those are. So having empathy for where they're at and getting them the answers to questions they didn't know they had. But anyway, well, that's a big topic in and of itself. But if you have paused out transactions, that's likely why. They need an answer, or they need a warm and fuzzy, or they need that good solid piece of wisdom. Anyway, with that, guys, we've gone over a little bit, but I'll wish everybody a blessed day.